After years away from home, my dad insisted I return for the new year, claiming my grandfather had arranged a high-quality alpha for me to meet. I immediately refused. Are you kidding? I already have a kid. Rich, with a child. Why would I need a man? My dad didn't care. Fine, as long as you're not afraid your grandfather will cut off your. Guiltily, I muttered, I'll buy the ticket right away. Inwardly, I was seething with hatred for that supposedly high-quality alpha, forced into a blind date because no one wanted him. But the more I looked at this alpha, the more familiar his face seemed. Once I clearly saw him, I panicked and rushed home to pack, planning to run away again. Turning around, I saw my kid cradled in that man's arms. Two strikingly similar faces collided in my vision. The man kept walking toward me. Seeing my legs weaken, he smiled with a knowing look. His gaze burned into me with a fierce intensity. That night, it really was you. I boarded the plane back home full of resentment. Especially on the flight, I ended up dreaming about Nolan again. My junior. My little one's biological father. A rare S-class alpha. In the dream, he was panting, his sharp teeth brushing my nape on purpose, or maybe by accident, making me shiver uncontrollably. Brother, is this it? His laugh was magnetic, and I, tearful, left a series of red marks across his smooth back. Ah, he growled low, pressing harder. Brother, I'm going to start now. I shook my head frantically. No, no. Before I could finish, he bit straight down. Nolan, no. I gasped and shot awake. The first thing I saw was my kid's worried little face. Daddy, are you okay? A quick glance around revealed curious passengers staring. Only then did I realize I was still on the plane. I'd been dreaming again. Rubbing my kid's soft, squishy cheeks, I forced a calm smile and explained I'd just had a nightmare. After apologizing to those around me, I slipped to the restroom alone. Closing the door, I felt my body burning with heat and something definitely off downstairs. I cursed under my breath. Sure, Nolan and I had only ever had that one encounter. Yet in my dreams, we kept having intimate moments in different places. But dreams are the opposite of reality. After all, Nolan had said he didn't like male omegas. With me, he'd always maintained the respect due to a senior. After that unexpected night, knowing he had no other intentions, I cleared everything and left the hotel before he woke up. Then, keeping it from everyone, I applied to schools abroad and rushed overseas. I hadn't expected my kid to be so resilient. All these days, I'd been working and studying non-stop. Yet my little one thrived safely in my belly. After many days of deliberation, I chose to keep him secret from the family and give birth to him myself. Thankfully, he was very obedient. My only worry was that he looked far too much like his biological father. My friend Lawson told me Nolan left City A after graduation and moved to City S for work. It didn't take him long. He quickly became what everyone saw as a diamond bachelor. Countless people tried to win his favor. He rejected them all. When I learned he'd shut everyone out, I was overjoyed. The hardships of raising a child alone seemed to vanish. But soon, an outstanding female Omega appeared by his side. Together, they grew their company even further. Years passed. I figured the chance of running into him was basically zero. Still, that uneasy, restless feeling kept spreading in my chest. Impossible to ignore. My mind was a complete mess, and the residual heat in my body hadn't faded. I pressed my temples, calmed myself for a moment, then splashed cold water on my face. Looking up, I saw my reflection, eyes wet, face flushed. I despised myself all over again. I'm a B-class Omega. Normally, my heat cycles should be stable, but without a partner's calming pheromones over the years, my cycles had become increasingly uncontrollable. And ever since Nolan had marked me that night, I was repelled by other alpha pheromones. Only his scent didn't bother me. Thankfully, I had taken inhibitors before boarding. On top of the suppressant patch, I wore an artificial ring emitting the scent of plum wine to calm me. The reassuring smell gradually quelled the fire inside. Back in my seat, my kid stared at me with huge eyes, not blinking. Before he spoke, I quickly made a shushing gesture. I sat down, turned toward him, smiled gently, and patted him soothingly. Still a long way until we land. Go back to sleep for a bit. Daddy's really fine. After a while, I squinted and pretended to sleep. I felt his little hand testing my breath. Then he exhaled in relief and snuggled against me. Hearing his even breathing, I opened my eyes and glanced helplessly at my peacefully sleeping child. This kid's totally watched too many dramas. I chuckled, gently pinching his soft cheeks. No idea who he gets that personality from. Then, seeing his innocent face so strikingly similar to Nolan's, my smile froze. I closed my eyes, forcing myself not to think. But reality and dreams intertwined. Even asleep, I could feel Nolan's chest pressed against my back. blistering heat. Even after the plane landed, my head was still spinning. Was it just because I was back home? Why did I dream of him the moment I slept? And why were the dreams all adult versions? I touched the suppressant ring around my neck. Maybe I really do need to meet someone through a blind date to finally let go. Walking out of the airport, I wore a face full of frustration, but the little guy in my arms was clearly delighted. I smacked him on the bottom and muttered angrily, "Riker, what are you so happy about? Wait until we get to your grandfather's house. When they see you, my kid's so big now, your dad here won't even be able to laugh." He didn't care and wrapped his arms around my neck, giggling. "Daddy, I'm almost 5. I can't be a secret little kid anymore." And, oh, now he's learned to tease. Clearly, all those domestic dramas paid off. With his mask on, I couldn't see his expression, but the pride in his voice made it obvious how smug he felt. Grandpa and the others will be so happy to see their adorable grandson. I gave a dark-faced snort, switching him to the other arm. But first, they'd probably beat me to a pulp. They even arranged a stepdad in training for you. You sure you can handle that? He grinned and started tapping his little imaginary abacus. No worries. Once you succeed at your blind date, you won't have to eat all that awful foreign food anymore. After all these years abroad, ever since I made him a simple scrambled tomato and egg, he had been suspicious of Western cuisine. But Daddy, your date has to know how to cook. If she can't even win over my stomach, a stepdad would be useless. His little mouth kept rattling off his eating demands. I wiped the sweat from my brow. This little guy really had a sharp mind, trying to calculate against his old man, huh? Truly my clever kid. I was about to scold him when a sudden chill ran down my spine. Someone seemed to be watching. Not one of my nosy relatives, I hoped. I wasn't bold enough to bring Riker straight home yet. Grumbling, I hugged him tighter and quickened my pace. Luckily, my hat was big enough to shield us. Riker, sensing my tension, stayed still. After all, I'd been completely honest with him about how we came to be here. I couldn't lie just because he was a child. He wasn't an ordinary kid anyway. After just a few days, he had accepted being a carry-on kid. But the next thing he said genuinely scared me. "Daddy, I think I just saw my real dad." My legs went weak, and I staggered, almost dropping him. Holding him steady, I said guiltily, "Cough, cough, you must be mistaken. Your dad wouldn't show up here. This was City A airport. He should be in City S." No matter what, I couldn't be careless. I quickly steadied myself and dashed toward the airport subway. If Nolan found out I'd secretly had his child, he definitely wouldn't let it go. I didn't dare take Riker home directly. Lawson opened the door, looking half asleep. I shoved Riker into his arms and rushed in immediately. Hee, whose place is this? I didn't bother sugarcoating, mine, of course. Collapsing onto the comfortable sofa, my tense nerves finally relaxed. "Kid, go call your godfather." Riker's clear little voice shouted, "Godfather." Lawson didn't respond, probably still waking up. Riker called again, louder this time. "Hey." He responded to Riker's greeting with a warm smile, coaxed him gently, and led him to his gaming room. "Riker, be good. Godfather needs to discuss something important with your dad. You play here for a bit, okay?" Riker glanced at me and obediently nodded. After Lawson closed the door, he came running over to me, eyes wide. Weston, every time you send me kid photos, you never show the full face. Turns out you were hiding a big one here. You came back so openly, afraid Riker's real dad would find out, huh?" Saying this, he yanked me up from my lazy slump, grabbed my luggage too, and tried to push me out the door. I hurried to explain, "I already told you, it was all forced by the old man at home. You don't know how expensive things are abroad. Raising a kid isn't easy." Lawson wasn't listening. He efficiently grabbed Riker's bag and tossed the rest in front of me. "I still have projects with Nolan's company. All the crazy lengths I've gone to secretly help you over the years aren't for you to sabotage yourself." I knew he meant well, so I grinned and teased. "Hee, no way, you're my lifesaver." At the start of my pregnancy, I needed Nolan's pheromones for reassurance. Lawson had helped. He tracked down small items Nolan had used and sent them to me from afar, which solved a huge problem. Finally, to avoid bothering him again, I spent a fortune to get a lab to extract Nolan's pheromone scent and make the suppressant ring. He rolled his eyes, arms crossed, face serious. "Anyone who knows Nolan, the moment they see your kid, they'll know it's his." I clenched my hands, lowering my gaze. Lawson sighed. "If you're really coming back for a blind date, hiding it forever won't work. City may be far, but the circles are small. He'll find out sooner or later." I stayed silent for a long moment, then just as I was about to speak, a commotion came from outside the door. Lawson's expression changed instantly, He dragged me toward Riker's room. The front door burst open. A group of people pushed in. I was shocked. Lawson's parents were there, and a very handsome man with tearful eyes. Seeing Lawson holding my hand, he began to cry, his voice trembling as he demanded, "So, this is why you refused to get engaged to me?" Something was off. I glanced at Lawson, curious. He shrugged off my hand. Just as I was about to explain, my kid opened the door on his own. Seeing a group of strangers around me, he ran over, shouting in alarm, "Daddy!" He hugged my leg and stared at them warily. "What are you going to do to my dad?" The handsome man's eyes widened, filled with sadness. You even have a child?" The words hit, and everyone's expressions darkened further. The handsome man wobbled, nearly fainting. Lawson quickly steadied him, and he collapsed into Lawson's arms. I awkwardly greeted his parents. They hesitated. "Weston, Yuan." I lost all interest in theatrics. I realized I was done for. Sure enough, she called my dad. 2 hours later, after stammering my way through an explanation to the elders, Lawson and I knelt in the living room. All around us, the elders were happily teasing Riker, especially my grandfather. His booming laughter filled the house. He occasionally boasted to Lawson's grandfather, causing Lawson several silent eye-roll warnings. "Blame you entirely," Lawson gritted through his teeth. The handsome man's name was Landon. Hearing that, his color drained, lip bitten, on the verge of tears. A truly beautiful man crying. His timid, delicate expression made it obvious, definitely an Omega. Lawson was oblivious to the blessing he had. For the sake of his friend's happiness, I quickly admitted my fault. "It's all my fault. I caused this." "It's not your fault at all." Lawson shot me a sharp glance. My dad's voice boomed from above. "Of course it's your fault. You hid this for so many years," nearly putting Lawson in a misunderstanding. I hung my head low, barely daring to breathe. Without Riker by my side, I had no courage to say another word. I didn't utter a sound until Lawson was taken away by his family. My dad, after holding back for so long, finally exploded once Riker was asleep. "Weston, you've really got guts to pull off such a rebellious act. Did you ever think what you'd do if that alpha already had someone he loved, and was married? How would you handle that?" My gaze dimmed. Thinking of Nolan's imminent happiness, the guilt inside me intensified. Not just for Nolan, but even more for Riker. Riker claimed he didn't care, but I knew he deeply longed for a father. My dad scoffed. "No, your fault, yet you still won't tell us which alpha it is. We could at least help you investigate." I still stayed silent. If I told them, they'd definitely confront Nolan. That would be even worse. I decided to survive the new year first, then take Riker abroad immediately. As I plotted, my grandfather finally spoke from his seat. "All right, if you don't want to say, fine. The kid's already 5, saying more won't change much." I exhaled, forced a smile at him, and gave a thumbs up. My grandfather really understands. So, the blind date was probably off. Most of the people my grandfather knew were either rich or powerful. Taking a kid along would mostly be frowned upon. However, a bad feeling crept in. "No way. I told Nolan about your situation and even sent him pictures of you and the kid. He said he doesn't mind your past." My grandfather's cloudy eyes suddenly gleamed. "So, the blind date will proceed as planned." The next day, at the Western restaurant. I'd only just returned yesterday, and today I was forced into a blind date. I cursed inwardly at the so-called high-quality alpha my grandfather had in mind. I had arrived early, and yet he still hadn't shown up. 0 points. I was on the second floor, with a good view. To pass the time, I watched people come and go, enjoying the sight of handsome men and beautiful women. Suddenly, my breath caught. Why did that man outside look so familiar? He spoke briefly to someone beside him, then walked straight into the restaurant. It was Nolan. Why was he here? Lawson had said the odds of him appearing in City A were practically 0. I remembered Riker at the airport, saying he'd seen his biological father. My chest tightened. It really was him. Could he be the very alpha my grandfather had arranged for the blind date? Right, my grandfather called him Nolan. My mind went blank for a moment. Then everything clicked. My grandfather had a close relationship with that blind date alpha. To keep the advantage in the family, he had thought of me overseas. No wonder my grandfather had been unusually happy and eager to speak on my behalf yesterday. He'd immediately known Riker was Nolan's child. They had conspired together, clearly aware of the kid's existence. Thinking of Nolan's past words, and the female Omega beside him, I shelved all fantasies. When Nolan looked in my direction, I quickly found cover, avoiding eye contact. He was escorted by staff up the stairs to the second floor. I quickly packed my things and slipped in the opposite direction. Taking advantage of the distraction, I sneaked out of the restaurant. This new year was ruined. I had to leave the country with Riker immediately. In a rush, I grabbed a car and sped to my villa. At home, Riker sat in the living room, happily watching a TV show. I didn't disturb him, swiftly went upstairs, and packed my luggage. Reaching the stair landing, I looked down. There was Nolan's irresistibly handsome face, and a miniature version of him, Riker. Two similar faces collided in my vision. He set Riker down and walked steadily toward me. The closer he got, the more the plum wine-scented pheromones hit me. A sudden heat washed over me, my legs went weak, and I had to lean against the wall. He smiled knowingly. His gaze burned into me with an intense, almost predatory heat. He cornered me, lazily extending his left hand to touch the suppressant ring on my gland. He chuckled softly, leaning close to my ear. In a hushed voice meant only for us, he whispered, "That night, it really was you." His exhaled warmth carried the scent of plum wine pheromones, effortlessly breaking down my resolve. Before I could collapse to the floor, he scooped me up around the waist. I had no strength to resist, leaning against him, clutching his clothes to steady my emotions. Out of the corner of my eye, I saw my curious child. My face instantly flushed, and I tried to push myself up, attempting to break free from Nolan's hold. "Put me down. Riker is watching." Instead, he held me tighter. He glanced at Riker and spoke gently, negotiating. "Riker, Daddy isn't feeling well. Let me take him upstairs to rest first, then I'll come back and play with you, okay?" Riker's large eyes shone, and he nodded vigorously at his biological father. "Okay, Daddy. I trust you to take care of Daddy. I'll go find Great-Grandpa to play and won't disturb you two catching up." Then he flashed me a huge smile and ran off without looking back. I could hardly believe it. My normally allied child had just betrayed me. "Riker, wait." I was angry but also intimidated facing Nolan. I awkwardly turned my face away. Nolan said nothing. Silently, he carried me back to the room. Then he gently placed me on the bed. I stared blankly at him from below. His expression was dark and brooding, nothing like the gentleness before. His tone was icy. "Why didn't you tell me back then? Why did you leave for abroad without a word?" I immediately thought of the female Omega beside him. Bitterness spread in my chest. Indeed, old hands are clever. My dad's warning had been right. I had ruined Nolan's happiness. I lowered my eyes, unable to meet his, stammering, "I know having a child on my own was unfair to you, but this may be the only child I ever have. I couldn't give him up. Please, could you not fight me for custody? Let's just pretend it never happened." Before I could finish, he pressed himself against me. I was completely pinned. It wasn't over. He trapped my hands above my head with one hand. I looked up at him, terrified, his crimson eyes unnervingly intense. I couldn't help but remember that first night. Brother. The word brother made me dizzy. Reality and the memory of Nolan in my dreams started to overlap. A fierce heat washed over me again. Ugh. Luckily, the suppressant ring was in place, or I would have lost control. Nolan adjusted my face to meet his gaze. His other hand caressed my neck, fiddling with the suppressant ring. "Why do you never answer me directly, brother?" I could hear the hurt in his voice. "Do you dislike me?" "What? He should be the one to dislike me." I bit my lip, struggling to hold back tears. "I heard you say you liked female Omegas, and you despise male Omegas who can have children." I remembered back at school, what he had said to that handsome male Omega. Even so, I had pretended not to know, brazenly staying around him. I had thought we could just be ordinary friends, as long as I could see him occasionally. Maybe one day, I could move on. But at a banquet, someone tampered with him. After forcibly taking him away, his susceptibility phase arrived early. My own heat followed. When I woke, I was confused. But my heart knew. I was thrilled to have him, even if only once. Reality didn't allow me to act on it. I had to erase all traces and leave without looking back. After that, rather than risk being disliked when you wake, it's better to just leave. At least in your mind, I could still be an ordinary senpai. Before I could finish, his lips pressed heavily against mine. I closed my eyes, tears spilling. He released my hands, gently wiping away each tear. "No, brother. I'm sorry, brother." He held me tightly, burying his face in my neck, completely still. After a while, I felt moisture at my neck. Nolan was crying. I dared not move, letting him hold me. He calmed, then began recounting his life experiences. What I liked, what I wanted. From beginning to end, it was always you, brother. "I'm Nolan. Ever since I gained self-awareness, I've been especially resistant to expressing feelings to anyone. I never got close to anyone. Because of that, my family has always treated me as a troublesome presence. After my alpha father abandoned my omega dad, this became even more pronounced. My father blamed all the faults on me. He displayed all sorts of malicious expressions openly, right in front of me. Even the male Omega secretaries who worked with him would hurl insults my way, sometimes even trying to provoke me verbally, hoping I'd self-destruct. Their goal was clear: to mold their son into the heir of the family empire. After understanding all these twisted schemes, I developed fear and disgust toward male Omegas. Then, to win my father back, Dad used me as a pawn to manipulate him and successfully got my younger brother conceived. I became even more detested. I didn't want to go home. And yet, Dad still vented his anger on me. Even while heavily pregnant and enduring the discomfort of lacking calming pheromones, he would hit me until I was bruised and swollen. I became the ultimate unwanted child, neither loved nor cared for. But I'd long been used to being alone, so it didn't bother me. During the summer of my second year in high school, I encountered a special family. From the oldest to the youngest, they treated each other like friends, living harmoniously. It completely changed my perspective. My attention soon shifted. In an unnoticed corner, my gaze kept following a boy with a radiant, sunny smile. He seemed to be an Omega. Still, my heart skipped several beats whenever I saw him. I overheard his family calling him Weston. I repeated the name silently in my mind, Weston. A strong desire arose within me. I wanted to know his full name, desperately. Perhaps fate took pity on me. We joined the same tour group. Their travel route mirrored mine, so I seized the chance to learn his full name. I even took a selfie, capturing him in the frame. Looking at the freshly taken photo, my heart soared. The joy lasted until the end of the trip, but as soon as I stepped through my front door, it vanished. Yet the name Weston had already etched itself deep into my bones. Every night, I dreamt of him. After 2 months of recurring dreams, I evolved into a rare S-Class Alpha. Father was thrilled, throwing grand banquets to introduce me to influential figures from every industry. He straightened his posture instantly and strutted before the secretary. I had become his showpiece. He even made my younger brother follow me around, trying to make him appear impressive in front of Dad. My attitude toward them remained the same, indifferent, if not colder. If Father needed something from me, I endured silently, swallowing my resentment. Weston attended a university. Getting into a university became my goal. Weston became my obsession. On the final day of submitting university preferences, I deleted all the schools and majors my father had carefully selected for me. I only filled in a university. The night I received my acceptance letter, I knelt in the hall while Father whipped me dozens of times. I didn't yield. He was so furious he could barely breathe. Repeat a year. You must go back and redo it, or get out. I won't give you a single cent. Father hurriedly signaled, speaking many good words to Dad. The secretary stood nearby, fanning the fire, a smug, gloating look in his eyes. But after Father took a phone call, he happily helped me up, patting my shoulders and praising me as his good son. Your uncle's youngest son also got into a university. He personally called to ask you to take care of him at school. His smile struck me as lecherous and petty. I just wanted you two to interact more, now it's effortless. They're no ordinary people. Anger surged in my chest. The presence of my S-Class Alpha power cut him off. Everyone present fell to their knees. Even the beta bodyguards weren't spared. I looked down on Father and the others. Coldly, I said, trying to control my life, "You're dreaming." I scanned the house I had lived in all my life. Not one corner held a memory worth keeping. I packed my things and left this meaningless home without looking back. Nolan, I'm telling you, I'm not your only son leaving this house. Don't even think about my inheritance. Who cares? The most important person in my life is waiting for me in a city. 9. After enrolling at a university, I finally got all the information about Weston. Seeing him smile warmly at everyone else ignited a fire of jealousy in me. If it weren't for my roommates dragging me away, my uncontrollable emotions and the pheromones I released could have caused quite a commotion. Lying in bed, I kept pondering my next move. Weston acted warmly toward everyone. I had to make him notice me, make him like me, make him love me. I began deliberately appearing in his line of sight, pretending it was accidental. By the nth time I caught Weston glancing at me, I was certain he had already developed feelings for me. But then my uncle's son appeared. He was obstructing my progress with Weston. He was difficult to deal with. He clearly didn't like me, yet clung stubbornly. Knowing he was proud and disliked men who liked women, I grew impatient and told him outright the next day. I liked female Omegas and despised male Omegas. Gage gave me a meaningful glance and walked away. I immediately TSK several times. My heart belonged only to Weston. No matter what Gage was, I only wanted him. Unexpectedly, Weston overheard my words. I noted the grudge and planned to repay it when the chance came. That night's incident was orchestrated by my father. He had planned to make me mark Gage in a secretive way to fulfill his own marriage scheme. I was physically drained and filled with hatred, reaching its peak. But then my Weston appeared. He became the light, illuminating me again. His forceful way of taking me away gave me immense satisfaction. The moment I caught the scent of Weston's fresh fruit pheromones, I let myself go completely. I poured out all the desire I had held back, marking him over and over. I didn't expect this heat cycle to last so long. 7 days of madness before it finally ended. Holding my beloved as I slept, my dreams were sweet. But waking to an empty, yet immaculately tidy room, I immediately realized Weston had run away. And run thoroughly. Before I could react, he had gone abroad. Panic surged through me. I wanted to chase after him. But my father reached me first. He threatened me. If I didn't cooperate with the family's plans, he would team up with the city's partner companies to crush them completely. I didn't believe he had the power. He calmly said, "Money can make ghosts turn mills, and money can make people see ghosts." I didn't expect him to be so bold. He bribed terminally ill people one after another, trying to harm them. He even sent me photos with cards attached. "They're lucky, only minor injuries." I wanted to call the police, but there wasn't enough evidence to pin him down. I confronted him with all my presence and power, pressing him to the ground with a harsh punch. He didn't get angry, only smiled provocatively. "What now? You think brute force alone can stand against me? If I want, even if your beloved runs abroad, I can still." He made a throat-slitting gesture. I glared at him darkly. His secretary had changed, cleaning wounds for him, but the expression was the same as before. His tastes hadn't changed either. After a moment, I laughed bitterly, my eyes filled with hatred. "Ha, just don't regret it." 10. Under my father's watch, I wasn't even allowed to seek news of Weston. Gage had gone to S-City for an internship. I was assigned to the S-City branch as well. Soon, I had become exactly what my father wanted. I despised this life. Looking back, I don't even know how those 5 years passed. Fortunately, Gage eventually chose to team up with me. When the time was right, we devoured the resources behind our fathers, strengthening the company we had secretly built. My father had a stroke from anger and ended up in the hospital. His secretary embezzled the last tens of millions from his accounts and even abandoned his own children to flee. Meanwhile, my father foolishly waited for my grandfather's reconciliation. Everyone else laughed. What a farce. When I visited my father in the hospital, he cursed me as unfilial. My younger brothers stood silently, lost in thought. I asked for them to be sent out. Father glared at me with wide eyes. I calmly fixed his blanket. "You should consider yourself lucky I found Weston's location," I said. "Otherwise, I wouldn't have been this lenient to let you use such good medical equipment." He sighed. I looked at his suffering with indifference, casually calling for the doctor. Letting him die would have been too cheap a justice for him. Checking my watch, it was time for chess with my grandfather. He was no fool. After just 2 moves, he recognized me from the trip years ago. I didn't hide anything. I sincerely confessed my feelings for Weston to my grandfather. He silently observed the board, saying nothing. After a while, as if nothing happened, he debated moves with me. I didn't dare to be too insistent, following his pace step by step. I only knew the country Weston was in, not the exact city. Thanks to his friends, I had clues. But by the time the items reached abroad, tracing them became impossible. After all, I was just a small company owner, not some fictional tycoon. Every time I recalled this, I hated my own helplessness. What excited me was that Weston needed my pheromones. He was thinking of me. After my relentless effort, my grandfather solemnly agreed to introduce his little grandson, Weston, to me. Knowing Weston's location, I wanted to board a plane immediately. Grandfather looked at me with disdain, telling me to wait a few days. He promised Weston would return willingly. "If you appear too soon, Weston will run, and then you won't even be able to find him." But I couldn't wait. 11. A few years ago, business was hectic. I used a business trip as an excuse and went abroad. During a layover, I arrived in the city where Weston was. Hiding in a corner, I saw the child in his arms, an exact replica of me, and I froze. I didn't even notice when tears fell. The sharp-eyed child noticed. He paused for a few seconds, then, while Weston was in the restroom, came over to me. He knew I was his biological father. He stared at me for several seconds before speaking. "You came too late. Daddy is going back to meet someone." His tone carried a hint of regret. I squatted down and gently stroked his head, telling him that his father would only ever be me. On the day of the arranged meeting, Weston ran off again. He went upstairs first, and I entered the house immediately after. My son saw me and leapt into my arms. I was about to go find Weston when I saw him carrying his luggage. Grandfather's words had been right all along. I swallowed my frustration and laid my son on the bed. I controlled the desire threatening to overwhelm me. This time, I was fully aware. I could resolve all misunderstandings. The female Omega I was with, she likes my younger brother. They're about to get married. I would never let him go again. He rolled onto me and bit my lip fiercely. Just as I thought to take control, he quickly withdrew, then propped himself up, looking at me tearfully. Why didn't you confess earlier? Why waste all this time with suspense? I was afraid of your father. If you had found me earlier, I could have fixed it all. Even if I couldn't, my grandfather still could. He pounded my chest, wriggling his body. His lower body reacted instinctively. He felt the heat and paused. Raising an eyebrow, he resumed his previous movements. I quietly tried to stop him. He leaned closer, the fresh scent of his pheromones enveloping me. His heated body pressed against my chest. Now that I see you don't like it, I'll take it off. Click. He removed the artificial restraint and tore off the adhesive. The intense scent of his pheromones hit me immediately, provoking an even stronger response. After years apart, we were like fire and dry wood. I stopped him from continuing further. Pressing my forehead against his, I panted, reminding him, "Not here." Rejected, his eyes filled with tears, silently blaming me. The timing and place weren't right, yet he exposed his scent glands, inviting a temporary mark. I bit gently, restraining my desire. He fell into a deep sleep. I didn't dare rest, afraid he would run again. I stayed until he woke and kissed his drowsy face. "My love, I'll never let you leave my side again." He wrapped me in his arms, lips pressed to mine. "Don't worry, I won't run again." 12. My marriage to Nolan was set. Although my father had glared at him several times during the process, Nolan had my dad and grandfather backing him. He didn't suffer much. As for my grandfather, he was preoccupied with his chess games. After tasting one of Nolan's meals, the child completely switched sides. My father was all about appearances. Seeing Nolan as his son-in-law, he treated him like a biological son, constantly praising his good genes. This gave my father a serious sense of crisis. After sending Nolan away, he made the child visit his great-grandfather. My father scolded me harshly and then kicked me out. I was stunned. He essentially told me to go find my own husband. I banged on the door, shouting, "Who cohabits without being married?" After a while, my father came to open the door. His expression clearly showed he had. Seeing me hesitate, he scolded my father with a playful slap. I was embarrassed but kept my composure. Cough cough. "You're a grandfather now, try to avoid awkward situations." With that, he slipped away, running back to his room. A few days before the wedding, someone came to see me. I remembered him. He was the one who had confessed to Nolan. Gage. Knowing he had helped Nolan take over the company, I genuinely admired him. The world held many biases against Omegas, and his abilities spoke volumes. But why was he here? Actually, I really like Nolan. I instantly became hyper-aware. He chuckled, signaling me to look at the tall, imposing alpha bodyguard behind him. The guard's lips were tightly pressed. Something was definitely up. I immediately understood Gage's intention. Sternly, I said, "Then what? Nolan and I are about to get married, you don't stand a chance." The guard relaxed slightly. I gave Gage a glance. He proudly replied, "As long as you're not married, I still have a chance. There's no wall without cracks in this world." We went back and forth for about 10 minutes. Finally, the guard behind him reacted. He lifted Gage onto his shoulders, whispered an apology, and quickly left. Gage beamed silently at me in thanks. The show continued. I happily shipped the pairing. A few days later, Gage sent me a large gift and promised he'd attend the wedding. I knew he had succeeded. At the wedding, we only invited close friends and family, simple and warm. At night, the child cried to stay with us, and the great-grandfather took him away. On our wedding night, the moment we closed the door, the sky seemed to join in, crackling with intensity. The scene inside was overwhelming. Nolan, who had abstained for years, wasn't satisfied after just a few times. "Brother, can we do it again over there?" He pointed to the kitchen. The playful tone made me melt. I couldn't refuse him. So it went. Again and again. Endlessly. Before passing out, my last thought was, luckily, this house isn't big.